Hi, and welcome to Class 6 of Cartoon Academy. So nice of you to join me today. I'm super honored to have you. Thanks for being a part of this. Today, we are going to talk about bodies and how to draw them. So far in this class, we've talked about circles. We've talked about line follow through. We've talked about how to put things in front of other things. And we've talked about hands. This is the 6th class in the series, and it is one of 2 classes this week. Both classes this week will be focused on drawing the body. What I'm drawing right now is sort of how I think of the prototypical cartoon body. Fundamentally, this is, Sonic the Hedgehog. You could put his head right on there. You could put Mickey Mouse on there. You could put Bart Simpson on there. Fundamentally, it's the child shape of a cartoon character. Let's see. We'll add Bart. We'll add, you could do Mario on this same basic body. Sorry, a little bit off there. Okay, you could put a lot of different characters on this basic body. And what I want to start with is the number one thing that I hear about when I talk to people about art is I can't even draw a, what do you think they say? Stick figure. I can't even draw a stick figure. It's the number one thing that people who think that they can't draw tell me when they find out that I can draw. Why is in chat if you can't even draw a stick figure? Or if you know what I'm talking about. Why is in chats if you relate to this at all? BMC Devitt. Okay, can't draw a stick figure. Fundamentally, stick figure is a challenge to begin with. You're supposed to draw a circle, and lots of people draw a circle, and it looks like that. What I'm going to suggest to you is that you could just start by making a blob. The stick figure who has to have a good-looking circle as his foundation is going to slow you down if you're not doing it perfectly. So I say, let's give our stick a head like that to begin with. Second challenge is you have to do a straight line. That one I can't tell you too much. If you can't draw a straight line, what I can tell you, and I've said this in earlier classes, is anchor part of your hand. If you're having a hard time drawing a straight line, you may need to find a way to get your hand on the paper in a way and pull that pen or push that pen, whichever is comfortable rather, but you don't want to just be floating. You want to find an anchor. Sometimes that anchor could be your middle finger. For me, a lot of times if I'm drawing, my anchor is my pinky, and just having some way to give yourself a little bit of extra control or relationship to the paper helps with lines. We're talking about stick figures. All right, however you do the head, this class is all about non-judgment, right? Don't judge things before they're done. Maybe don't judge any of this stuff you're doing right now until long from now, if ever. But a stick figure is kind of a mistaken approach anyway. There's not a lot we can do to this guy to turn him into an actual useful cartoon character, right? From here, you could kind of trace an outline around him, and that would get you kind of, to a place where you have a cartoonish person, but it's more like a sort of a flat Keith Haring style drawing that you're going to wind up with if you just trace around a stick figure, right? It's really just bubble lettering. You wind up with this. And The fundamental thing I'm going to pitch to you is that when you're drawing any cartoon character, if you want to do a full body, and I think you should do this in pencil. I'm doing it in pen here for the sake of visibility, but the main relationship I want you to get when you are drawing a cartoon character is the relationship of the head. And the head could be a circle, it could be a square, it could be, a traditional human head shape. But whatever you're doing, get that head, and then get a second circle below for the body. Right, I'm saying the head could be any shape. Let's start with circles. Over time we can build up to a very realistically shaped head with a more realistically proportioned body too. But this is a fundamental thing we can start to do, is just go circle and circle. All right, this is going to be our basic body. And, if the head is bigger than the belly or the belly is bigger than the head, that's a matter of character design. All right, it's okay if they're the exact same size. It's also okay if the body's smaller, but for our purposes right now, let's try to keep them either equal sized or the body a little larger than the head. Just for this style of character, okay? Now, all right, head, body, and then a little line between them for neck. All right, now coming off of either side, just give me a line going straight down, like that, to some kind of a foot. This is another generic shape. Could be a foot, triangle. It could be, like that. But I think an oval kind of works to start. Don't stress too much about it. And then sort of coming out from the sides like that, a curve going over the shoulder like so. This guy can come out to another sort of oval there. All right, now what we're starting to have is a little bit of body mass. And the main thing that this is really giving us is hips and shoulders. With the stick figure, the real problem is that central stick gives us no actual body mass. So you just kind of have arms coming out of nothing. What we're working towards is a model where ultimately where we're heading is something where our stick figure actually is probably going to look more like that, all said. This, as a starting point, this guy, just by giving that little, this is fundamentally a stick figure, but it's just two sticks now in the middle for the main body as opposed to one. Over time, you can build up and think about, right, if that's my stick figure now, you can almost just start it with boxes. And you can start to have fun with the shape of the boxes. Like, I like to do this kind of thing. All right, now I have a guy standing still, but I have an arm stretching over. Now I've got a stretchy, athlete kind of guy. Or when you get really good and complicated, you could think about, how do I want to do this? All right, bottom of the box coming over like this, so that now I have a stick figure who's twisted. But that's a more advanced piece of conversation to have. For now, we are talking about small circle for head, bigger circle for body, line down, and then I want you to think about the line doesn't have to come over for the arms. You could just from anywhere, and actually a good trick would be to fit a square or just a four-sided figure into this shape, and then from each of those places, try doing a curved line. No straight lines, no perfect curve. Curved lines coming out of those 4 points. on your circle. And end with a circle at the end of each hand, and an oval for each foot. Okay, now we're getting into what is, let me see if I can get this camera color back. This is where dynamic posing starts to come in, which is really exciting. Most of the time you see, you know, like even on my videos that I posted earlier today, you see me like draw like all the detail of the head, and then I come down to the neck and I'm doing this stuff and getting all the way across, and now I'm doing the belt, and now I do the arm and the other arm, the sword, and then I get to the legs and I figure out the feet. The reason I want you to work on these sort of wireframes, these stick figures, is that if you can, with pencil beforehand, kind of map out how your figure is going to go, you stand a much better chance of getting something that looks good and feels like it all sits together. When you just start at the top and draw your way down, or even start at the bottom and draw your way up, you're going to wind up with something that doesn't really feel like it sits. So with our drawings, it'd be better to make that stick figure and then start to add the details to him. You get to make so many decisions about the emotion and the sort of feeling of your character if you start with the stick figure. Start with the structure. Wow, that's a brain fart. That's probably the longest I've ever not talked in class. I want you to try and draw with curved lines, because let's say this is your body. You can make long arms. This guy has kind of long arms. Let's say you make your body like this. We know that in reality, if you were to draw just the skeleton, you know, you draw the spine, the thigh bones, the shins, and then the feet might curve because there's a bunch of things in there. But we think about these bones as being, sorry, I was off camera there. We think about these bones as just being hard angles, right? So when you're drawing a figure, you might think, oh man, well guys, there's a leaf blower going next door. Windows are shut. Okay, how are we doing? Sorry. Woo! All right, we're getting curveballs today. All right, so you think about the body, you think about straight lines and joints in the legs and arms, right? What I want you to do is think in curves here instead. Instead of that figure that we just drew, you get your spine, and I want to see a curve, and you can do curves that way. When we do these hard angles, you can functionally take a hard angle like that and put padding on it to make it a finished limb. But what I would suggest doing is by drawing the curve of that same arm and then deciding hand is here, elbow is there, shoulder is there, you can still create the curves. You can still create the tubing, but you go around it instead. Boy, I got so distracted. I'm trying to be more present. Okay. Still with me? I'm down to 800 people. I know we're dropping, but I still got my core people, right? You're here. All right. Let's go from the ground up. Again. Circle, head, circle, body. Now, from Try and fit a square inside of that body. This is going to help us figure out where to start the arms and legs. All right. Now, from there, do a curved line out and another curved line out. And then from the upper parts of that square, a curved line up and a curved line up. Got it? Circle for hand, circle for hand. Oval for foot, oval for foot. And then about halfway through for a knee and an elbow on each of those arm lines, like so. And then lines that connect the shoulder to elbow and elbow to arm on the outside. This can be a smooth line, it can be jointed, depending on the style. The more definition you get, the more you're getting into a potentially realistic style. It'll be more comic booky. For cartoons, keep those lines smooth. Again, I'm doing this in pen. If you do this in pencil, you can go over it in pen and have a more finished product. We'll add fingers, 1 thumb aiming in at the head, 3 regular fingers sort of splayed. Line for the neck, connect it there. Okay, and you should be left with something. If you're drawing this in pencil, we could take a second to ink it. We won't actually take that time in class. But if you were to then ink it, leave the box out, leave the inner structure out, and you wind up with something that looks like this. And this is something I can do because I've practiced so much doing the inside work on drawing like this. But this is what we're working towards, a character that feels continuous, where these lines seem to all work together. I'm asking you to draw the frame inside as sort of a training structure, and over time you can find the gesture a little bit better. I think part of the reason I'm struggling with this today is I think this is more complicated than anything we've talked about before. And we're going to continue it next class. It's going to get more complicated. But for now, let's try some other basic body forms off of this. All right, so draw me a circle, those of you who are drawing, and a smaller circle off to the side here, a little bit off angle, and connect them by a line. Now draw a little circle there and another little circle sort of farther away. Okay? This is one way that I draw to make dynamic poses, is I'm imagining each of those is a hand at the end of an arm. And then I want to think about, okay, well, what am I actually trying to have him do? I'm going to say he's walking with his head down in this direction. So now I might have his foot forward here, coming back like that, his other foot being kicked up like so. Let's have another where the head is off to the side, similarly to the last one. And line coming up at a curve going like that. Another line angled like so, coming down to a foot like that. And one more line coming off at a slight curve like that, going there. And another dropping like so. This is what I'm going to give you for homework, is I want to see 20 different bodies, all drawn on this same way, where you start with 2 circles and you find things that you want to do with them. So I put the head below this time, I put the smaller one below. Now I'm going to see what I can do in terms of, right? The only thing I'm doing is being a little bit inventive on how I position these pieces. One great thing you can do is look up poses that you want to do. Look up a running image on Google and find out that runners are putting one arm forward, kind of curving down. You want to look for those curves. Always try and draw the limbs as curves to start. Doesn't hurt to know where the center of your circles are. Or you could try and do one where you start with a big circle for the body, a little circle for the head, and just place hands and feet anywhere at any angle, and then see what it takes to connect them. So just drawing those shapes, I can say, well, I can't really draw a straight line back here to the body, but I can come out like so. I could curve, but it feels pretty far away, so I have to kind of go for a straight one out. This one seems to face outward, but be pretty close. Put the knee there, put the knee there. All of a sudden we have pretty versatile body shapes. And from here, we will build these bodies up. You don't have to do this now. Homework is just 20 bodies like these. Pick your shapes. Actually, don't even pick your shapes. Just fill the page. And you can start it now if you want to. When you start to get tricky, you can use what we learned in the class of putting things in front of and behind. You could start to do bodies like this. Any relationship of these basic parts. Foot, foot, body, hand, hand, head, and then just see what it takes to connect those. Where do you have to, does that feel like the leg's going to be too short? Kick it out a little bit, straight line. And that's a really good trick too. What I showed you at first was body, and we're just going out to the hands. This is a perfectly fine pose for you to start with. You think about inside of there may still be that that stick figure that we've always drawn, but I want you to think about big, fat middle body. Will help you get where you want to go, even if it seems silly to start. Revenge of the leaf blower, I swear. How's even out there? It's like a heat wave here right now, you guys. It's wild. Thank you for those follows. Oh, I'm glad that it's getting you out of an art block. Let's see. So the homework, 20 bodies like these. And when you're drawing these bodies, right, my fundamental thing is I'm saying head, 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 body, arm, arm, leg. These are what I want to see. Do experiment with what happens when that line crosses over the body. So just by doing that very same thing again, but this time I'm going to put those arms and legs on the right side as coming through. Now I start to feel like there's an axis like so on that body. Before we were kind of facing straight on like this. Now it feels like we're turning him. And play with that. So taking that same shape but down here, and now I'm gonna put that arm coming out of the same place but curve it, and on this side it's staying behind, and then line coming down like so, and line coming up but going in front of that circle, again giving that basic roundness. Right, that's a pretty interesting and distinct pose. And what's fun is you make these poses and then you decide what they are. You're going to practice all these things, right? This could be a guy tipping over and falling off of a cliff, or contextually you could have him, it's that he's jumping down onto something. But all of these are things that you find by just experimenting with the basic structure. Circle, circle, hands. Let's do, okay, jump kick. I know the foot's going to be sort of in, and other one's going to go out. So now I'll say, all right, that's going like that. See, I like that. I wouldn't have thought of that unless I was doing that drawing in that moment. So it's okay to find these things. And, you know, like I say, you got to draw so much. And in order to draw so much, you don't need to be judgmental. You just need to keep going and try again and notice what happens without criticizing too hard on yourself. Okay. Talk to me. Wait, first I'll say, so that is the material for the day. We're going to come back and talk about this more on Thursday.